In this video, I'm going to create a deconstructed photograph in Photoshop as a sample for this project that we've talked about. There's lots of different directions that you can go with your deconstructed photographs. You can combine multiple images together. You can use just one. There's many different ways you can go with this, and I cannot wait to see your creativity. By completing this project, it will show that you're proficient in knowing how to use the selection tools in Photoshop, the layers, and the move tool. A secondary goal of this project is to grow with your retouching and software skills. You'll also learn how to use the canvas and image size, as well as the grid and rulers within Photoshop. So let's get started. I've created myself a folder of images that I want to possibly use for this project. I took these pictures of some turtles at Table Rock Lake this summer, and I thought they were really fun. And I thought, well, this would be I just like the colors of them. I took them with my phone, so they're not the highest quality. I added some filters on them, so they're kind of high contrasty, and I thought they would be a fun um, image to use for this particular project. I haven't decided yet if I want to put multiple turtles together in this deconstructed photo or if I want to just stick with one. So before we get started, we want to think about what size do we want our document to be and what do we want to do with it in the end. So I'll tell you, I always like to make my creations high quality and photo ready and printing ready, I mean. So I usually make them where they're 300 DPI and ready to print at the end when I get finished. This is important to know before we even set up our file. So I'm going to go ahead and get into Photoshop by clicking on my Photoshop icon, and I'm going to start a new document. And I've decided I'm going to make my deconstructed photo a letter size piece of paper so that way when I get done, I can print it. You can make your document any size you want. I will just say I would not make it really huge. It might turn out really awesome and you might want to print a poster of it, but you need to be careful because you could max out the memory on your computer. You don't want to make it like 40 inches by 24 inches. Our computers just can't handle those size of files right now. So I'm going to go over here and create a new document. So Photoshop is smart. It remembers the last file size that I made. More than likely, your Photoshop will not have this on it. You'll have to kind of click through, and what I've decided is I want to make a printed document. So I went to the Print tab. I could make it from scratch over here, but Photoshop does most of the work for me if I pick a standard size document. So I'm going to pick a letter size piece of paper. I want it to be 300 DPI, and I've decided I want it to go horizontal, not vertical. I'm going to go ahead and leave my background as white. When you get in Photoshop, you can change it. It just makes it easier for me to see things as I cut apart my picture and move it around. I'd like to change my color profile to CMYK because I know I want to print this when I get done. If you don't feel like printing your photo, you can leave it in the RGB color space. Click Create. So now here is my new document. I do use my layers palette and will use it a lot. My picture is down here. This could interfere with my progress. So I'm going to take my layers palette and just move it over here so I can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. Maybe I'll just move it up here for now. There we go. That's a little bit easier. So I now have a beautiful blank document that's ready to go. I need to put my image into this document. I'm going to place an embedded photograph, and where those turtles are located are on my desktop. I'm going to just select the one I want and place it within the document. What happens when you place a photograph is it comes in as a new layer, and it also comes in with this X and these little um, squares around it. What that does is allow you to change the size and transform the image to what you want. You can rotate it, and when you get it how you want it, you can just click a check mark and click OK. So now my turtle is put into the document and I'm going to deconstruct it. But before I get too far, I want to go ahead and save this. So if my computer crashes, it's saved. For now, I am going to save it on my desktop. I will eventually move it to my Google Drive. So my rulers are already showing. If your rulers are not showing and you want them to, go to View, Rulers. This is also where you can turn on Snap to Grid or not. So this is important because if you're trying to move pieces of this image around and your computer won't let you move it where you want to, this snap is probably fighting against you. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn my snap to rulers and snap to guides off. I want to go ahead and show you how to create guides. So if you want to make a guide or a grid, you can turn on a guide layout. Photoshop is smart. Again, it remembers the last thing I did. So the last project I made had 8 columns and I had some spacing. You can also put rows on here. We want to do 8 and 8. You can make your own grid if you want to be really particular with this particular project. I honestly kind of want to make my project kind of random. So for now, I am not going to put a grid on mine. So I just wanted to show you where that was in case you want to use it. So I'm going to hit cancel. So here is my image, and I need to change it from a smart object to be rasterized. So to do that, I have to click on this with my 2-finger click on my trackpad and click rasterize layer. What just happened was my smart object went to pixels, so I can easily change it and move it around. So I am going to be deconstructing and destroying this picture for the sake of learning new things about tools in Photoshop. And before I get too crazy with it, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my layer. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this picture. So I have 2 copies of this turtle here. And I have it there so that I can, if I ever want to go back to the original, it's there. I'm going to go ahead and add a new layer. And for the sake of me being able to see what I'm doing and cutting and moving, I am going to paint that layer with bright yellow. So what I did real quick is I clicked on this plus sign, I added a new layer, I grabbed the color yellow, I got me a paint bucket, and I dumped yellow in there. Now my turtle picture is back on top of the color yellow. And I am just going to start dissecting this by using different shapes and selection tools. I really liked the sample image that I showed you that was using a bunch of rectangles. If you want to keep your shapes the same, there's a way for you to draw a shape. So there's different ways we can deconstruct this photo. We can simply make a selection, grab our move tool, and move that to a different location. We can simply move that. If you want to get really fancy, you could apply layer masks and you could delete parts away. But for this particular project, I want to make this fairly simple because, it's one of the first ones of the semester. So I am going to just trace that shape again and pick a different place to still some from. And I'm still working on the same layer. So now this area is selected. I'm gonna grab my move tool and I'm gonna just move that somewhere else. Actually, I'm kind of liking the yellow showing through. I don't know if I'm gonna keep yellow or not. So now I'm drawing a new shape, a different kind of rectangle in a different place. And I'm gonna move it over here. Whoops. Looks like I didn't grab anything that time. Need to use my move tool. So I have to be clicked on my move tool for it to cut that piece out and move it somewhere else. Just rectangles. You can use any kind of shape you wish. I'm just using repeating shapes for now. This is tricky. You have to remember to switch back and forth between your selection tool and the move tool for it to crop and move it. So you can design your deconstructed photograph any way you like. I'm going to go ahead and work on mine for a little bit. I think this project will be really fun. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So the real reason I'm having you do this project is not just to destroy one of your pictures. That's not the point. The point is to get you used to using selection tools again and to get you familiar with moving parts of images and working with layers. So right now, I'm just moving shapes and cutting shapes out of this one image on one layer. If you want to get really complex, you could do this by using layer masks. We will get really good with layer masks later in the semester. This is looking kind of cool, kind of like it, but I'm getting kind of bored with using the same shape. Repeating shapes in art is a good idea, but we don't want to be boring. We need to have some unity and variety. Start making some fatter rectangles and some skinnier rectangles. Again, you don't have to use rectangles. You can use different shapes if you want. You can custom draw some shapes by using the lasso tool. Let me try a skinny one. See how that looks. Ooh, I like what that looks like. I might even layer some of those on top. I actually really am liking this color yellow too. Might have to keep using it. So I'm just cutting pieces out, moving it around. I am not going to make you watch me spend my whole time working on this because I need you to have time to work on yours. So this might take us a while. So you can be really precise with your shapes, or you don't have to. It's up to you how far you deconstruct your image. So I need to work on this for quite a while to get it looking like I want to. I want to have a good mix of negative and positive shapes. Another way to do this deconstructed photo is for you to draw shapes on top of it. so you can draw shapes on top of it by using the shapes tool and different colors of paint. But what I like about this particular image and why I picked it was it had lots of lovely areas of solid color and many areas of interesting textures and designs. So I thought that it would be really interesting to use. So I was very strategic in what picture I used for this project. So you use your selection tools, you select part of the picture, then use your move tool, and you move it to where you want it to be. So it's important that after you work on this for a little while, that you do save your image, because many of you have learned real quick that Photoshop does not auto-save. Now that I've saved it, if I want to just save over the top of the file, I just can do Command S is the shortcut for save. Command S is the keyboard shortcut for save, or you can go to the menu and do File Save. So it's important that you do that after you've made a lot of changes so that your file is still there tomorrow when you keep working on it. So that's phase one of my deconstructed turtle project. I'll go off and work on it some more, and I'll show you the final result later. Thanks for watching.